We're in Rawtenstall, obviously, and this is the where the limey water that comes down from across Booth and Loughclough meets the River Irwell, and this was known as Longholm. Actually, Longholm was quite a bigger place back in the day. I used to think of Longholm just as where the chapel is, but it stretched right down to the river and where the railway was. And this is where my paternal great-grandparents moved to, well, grandparents moved to in, well, I think the 1870s actually. They moved from Chippenham in Kent, round the Fen area, Cambridgeshire, possibly the Cambridgeshire, anyway, a little agricultural village called Deerham, where it looks like they'd been involved in the agriculture. Quite poor they would have been, and when the bottom fell out of the agricultural market, enclosures didn't help, they ended up, or certainly the children, a lot of the children of the family came up and moved to Rawtenstall. The parents kind of stayed down there with one of the sons. So the rest of the kids moved up here and lived at number 3 Longholm, so I believe, wherever that was. The sister kept house, one of the brothers worked on a farm, and the rest of them went in the mill, including my great-granddad George, and we think he went into a Whiteheads mill. Anyway, what I'm going to talk about and going to have a look at is from my maternal grandparents' side, my grandma, and their family moved up. They were a mixture of sort of Leicestershire and Leeds, so sadly there's a bit of Yorkshire blood in here, I'm afraid. But they were involved in the shoe trade, and certainly my great-granddad was, but they obviously got involved with the cotton trade as well, and for a time I believe they worked at Ilex. But it's something on Bank Street that I remember as a kid and now is hard to find. I was talking to a mate about it a couple of months ago, so we'll go and have a look at it, or see if we can find it. So looking down Longor Road, we're looking back up Longor Road, and at the end there, that used to be Charlie Parsons. That was a fantastic shop to go in, sports clothes, camping stuff, and all sorts of other stuff. I think Charlie had been a sort of champion race, on the push bikes racing, I think. Certainly done something. I think at one time maybe he had the record between Rawtenstall and Blackpool. I don't think Roy Castle and Norris McWhirter ever talked about that. But there in the background we've got Ilex Mill, where my great-granddad Orton, he worked for a time. And this is Longor Road. There used to be a big mill on here, Longor Mill, quite a very old mill, and the young David Whitehead used to work here in his younger days. But also I remember as a kid Longor weaving shed still being here, and I'm not sure if that wasn't one of the last weaving sheds still working in Rawtenstall. And that's the iconic picture house in Rawtenstall. Well, it's iconic, I suppose, for us, our sort of generation. It's soon to be demolished, so I thought I'd better get it on while I can. I spent many a Saturday night in there in the double sort of smooching seats at the back of the old cinema. You didn't really care about snogging in public in those days, did you? And sadly it got split up into units and it opened and closed, but many a happy memory. A memory it being absolutely ram-packed when they first showed Jaws. Yeah, it was great seeing films like that when it was packed, and it was just one screen with a balcony and everything. Great. This is Longor Chapel. This is where my gran and all her family used to come. I've got a photograph of all 12 sisters thereabouts stood in front of it, and they're associated with this all their life, Longor Methodist. And it was built by the Whitehead brothers, or they were part and parcel of it being built, and they originally came here as well. And then they all kind of fell out and they built St Mary's Chambers opposite. And behind is just the clock tower of Hollymount School, where my gran and granddad actually met each other, and behind that was the home of the Whitehead brothers, Hollymount, and then the mill that dominated the centre of the town of Rawtenstall, which was Lower Mill, or Fold Mill as it was known. Now, Well, it's just a temple to the god Mammon. It's a big Asda, or Asdas as they would say. This behind me is Fitzpatrick's. It's the last temperance bar in the country. Now you can buy Fitzpatrick's wares all over the place in all the major stores. But when I was a kid, you had to get them here. You could go in for a pint of rum and raisin, and blood tonic was my favourite. And opposite, where that clock tower is, that was the school where my gran and granddad met. So I'm taking it, both their parents were associated with the Whiteheads. They must, I'm thinking of works at Lower Mill. And that was a schoolroom at one time, certainly just for the mill children. But in my gran and granddad's time in the 1890s, maybe other people could get access as well, but that's where it was. And Whitehead's Mill, well, one of them, they had three altogether. Lower Mill was where Asda is now. Anyway, we're going to look up Bank Street to where my gran lived when, well, actually when the Boer War was ending. And a place that you can't quite see now, that I was talking to my mate about a couple of months ago, and he never even knew of this snicket. So let's see if we can find it. My gran reckoned she hated sitting next to my grandfather and all, because he always used to play tricks on her and one thing and another. And my granddad were like that, right until being in his 70s and 80s, he'd still be coming out with all sorts of funny comments to folk like. And that's Ollie Mount, which was the home of the Whitehead brothers, David, Peter and Thomas. And this was their kingdom, as they maybe thought it was in the day. Certainly a new generation was growing up and changing the town, well, making it into a town rather than a village. It was quite a large family with my grans. My great-grandfather and my great-grandmother, they had about 14 kids, I think. I think there was at least 12 daughters and 2 sons. I should know, shouldn't I? Like I said, my great-grandfather, last name was Orton, and he worked at Ilex for a bit. He was a shoemaker and all, he made shoes for the whole family. And they lived on above Bank Street for a while, a place called Banktop. And I remember being the last year at school, and I started asking my gran different questions about her being young, but you just don't ask the questions you should have done. And when you get older, you think, why didn't I ask this, why didn't I ask that? But she told me when they lived on Banktop, above Bank Street, it was a time round about the Boer War finished. And she said the only guy that she remembered coming back from the Boer War was a guy by the name of Nobler, and they had a band playing all the way up Bank Street from the train station, and they lived up Banktop. And there used to be a snicket off Bank Street that went up Banktop, and I remember as a kid going up there with my gran and granddad to visit somebody, and then we'd go on Armrod Street, but we visited somebody there. Anyway, this is round about where Banktop was. The 2 shops there, and I think the one there, the health store, there was a snicket, and you walked up some steps to get up to it. And the little shop next to it, I'm sure, was a little insurance broker's where I got my first insurance for my motorbike. So that's where it was, but there's no sign of it now. And I seem to remember above it there being like a balcony, but maybe I'm wrong, but maybe somebody remembers. But I think I've found where we can get to it round back. Let's have a look. On Armrod Street back in the day, 2 tourist houses either side, they were back to back. You went through a snicket part way through onto a balcony where there were another row of houses, obviously back to back, and then underneath there were cellar dwellings as well. On Armrod Street originally, it sort of finishes up there now, but it went right over the top and down to where the bypass comes through now, which used to be the Fold. That's what it was called, the Fold district, and it was quite a rough old district and all. So I remember coming up to a row of houses but my memory is very vague. We're going back to the early 1970s really. It's over 50 years, isn't it? These are the houses we must have visited. It looks totally different to what I remember now. But I think I found where the snicket is actually. And I think this is it. You can only just see it, and it looks really, really narrow now. But it's going into the back of that shop there. And it's definitely something. Like I said, they used to come through a hole in the wall, through a little ginnel, and then up some steep stone steps, and it brought you out right up here. So I think this is maybe it. Or maybe you know better. Anyway, that's from back in my grandma's time. That's where she lived at the end of the Boer War. So we've got by now our obligatory map from the Library of Scotland, our overlay map, and we can see Bank Street coming up here almost to the top, and this is Banktop. This is I think it's the 1890 map, and this is where the two shops are. So you can see my memory's a little bit out. I thought it was going up through one of the shops, the Hell shop, and it's not. It's to one side. But what we can see is a vacant lot there up the steps to this building now that doesn't, I say it doesn't exist, but it looks, I said originally that we visited this row of houses, and we didn't. It's obviously this house here that we visited. We came up the steps and onto this balcony here. So this is exactly where Banktop was. This is it. Let's open it up on our to get our satellite image. And there we see. There's a health food shop there, and the one next to it, there's Freddy's hairdressers there. So we came up the steps there, side of the shop, on top to this balcony, and I'm sure we must have visited this house here. It's amazing how your memory kind of, yeah, you lose your memory a little bit. And then there is a ginnel, a snicket there. Is that perhaps what I saw and what I filmed, the remnants of that snicket? Let's have a look again. No. Oh, it could possibly be. Yes, it could possibly be. That could possibly be. No, it isn't, because there, I thought I saw it there. And it's actually there, isn't it? Yeah. So there you go. There doesn't seem to be much of a trace of it anymore. Oh, perhaps that could be. Maybe somebody can have another sneak up there and maybe tell me. It's difficult to tell, really, off that, isn't it? If that bit of a gap in the wall is there. Anyway, that's where we were. That's where Banktop was. And I've looked all through old photographs, especially on Peter Fisher's site. And there's photographs of the bottom of Bank Street, looking up, looking down, looking up from here to Tutbridge. But I haven't found a photograph of Banktop. Maybe you've got one at home. Now, my nan did say that they could look out from Banktop over Brickfield. And I'm stood at what was Brickfield now. And you can see where Banktop was. Those are the Queen Victoria Jubilee buildings, and right next to it we've got Freddy's, the hairdressers. Well, if you look on the first one of the first early town plans, it shows there where Freddy's is that it's sort of like a vacant lot. So maybe at that time they could, and Freddy's is right next to where the ginnel was. Well, this is Brickfield. It's kind of where Higher Mill used to stand, which was the Whiteheads' first mill that they built on their own, and Brickfield would have been part of it. Well, it would have been houses for the mill workers, and this is the mill that was attacked during the 26 riots, 1826 that is. So this is where my gran used to look out at as a kid, and when she got married to my granddad, about 1915, well anyway, he'd gone off to the war, he got shot in 1915, but they moved up onto Daisy Hill. A real good old-fashioned street, and this is where they lived when they first got married. They married when my granddad was on leave. Like I said, he got shot at Loose in 1915. Thankfully, he survived, although they were going to fetch his leg off, as he said, but he wouldn't let them. And we've got if you look on my channel there, look down, we've got his memories and he tells you all about it. So this is a lovely old street, what Rawtenstall used to be like. Maybe it wasn't as clean and tidy as this. But anyway, a little bit of history. The Rawtenstall and my grandparents. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you later.